Kamala Harris is begging for another debate. Begging. She's got to have a debate in order to get herself out there and get herself out of this hole, which is weird because if you trust the polls from CBS or NBC, you would think, well, Kamala's winning by 4 points, 5 points, maybe 6 points. Newsflash, she's not. Their internal polls are telling them something completely different. That's why they're begging for the debate. That's a fact. Join me now, Jim Pfaff, the Conservative Caucus President. Jim, thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. Good to see you.
And look, Kamala Harris only accepts softball interviews from people like Stephanie Ruhle. Boy, did that go sideways yesterday. You've got Joe Biden on The View. That was ugly, too. Look, these folks don't take real interviews. Kamala Harris has never done a press conference since becoming the nominee to run the most powerful country on earth, to be the leader of the Western world, and she can't do a press conference? That's pretty frightening. And she's begging for a debate only on CNN, though, where they think that she'd get a better shake than on Fox News, for example. What do you think the internal polls are saying for her to basically be out there campaigning for another debate?
I think that her internal polls show what many of us who follow this very closely and the American people intuitively know to be the truth, which is that she's not doing well. I'm speculating, but I've looked at these polls recently, particularly the change in the drastic change in Nate Silver's long-term prediction, which is all based on the polls he's receiving. It's not necessarily a bias, but that change took place because I think the pollsters were looking at Donald Trump seeming to do so well and said, yeah, our turnout model must be bad. Remember, polling is a science and an art both. The science is you gather data. The art is, and you need to do this, is figure out what you predict the turnout model will be. And I just believe that they've changed their turnout models because they just don't believe that Donald Trump has so much support. But I think he really does, and Kamala Harris knows she's potentially in trouble.
Well, I just talked about this with my last guest, Tom Baird, who's running for Congress in Michigan, Jim. And that is, Gallup has come up with a poll that I think is shocking to me. Never in my lifetime have there been more Republicans in America, ever. But according to Gallup, party identification puts Republicans at 48%, Democrats at 45%. It's a stunning turn of events and role reversal. Jim, if it's true, all bets are off.
If that is accurate, then and that's with Gallup. They're not looking at actual voter registration data on the books. They're looking at identification based upon their polls. So there is some sense in which we don't precisely know. But if that's true, then Kamala Harris has no chance to win this. In fact, if you look at the actual polls where Donald Trump is doing well in Pennsylvania, if you look at the Electoral College count, Pennsylvania is a must-win for Kamala Harris. It's a need to win for Donald Trump. It's an insurance for Donald Trump. It's absolutely necessary for Kamala Harris. I was just in Pennsylvania for the Tucker Carlson event up in Reading, Pennsylvania on Monday, and I'm telling you, the energy in Pennsylvania is amazing. These people are fired up, but it's happening elsewhere in Michigan, like your previous guest was talking about, and other places. I do interviews in Wisconsin a lot. Wisconsin's excited. So I really think that the energy is on Donald Trump's side. And there's no doubt that the facts on the ground, the economy and different things like that are on his side as well.
Well, I agree with you. I just saw the New York Times Siena poll, considered an A-plus poll by many, showing the Sun Belt states all sunny for Donald Trump right now. Look, if he wins those, he only needs one more. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, it doesn't matter. One more, one and done at that point. If Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania, Katie barred the door. And here's the other thing that I think is really important, Jim. And Glenn Youngkin, the governor in Virginia, has been saying this for weeks, if not months now. He says Virginia is in play. Well, guess what? Virginia is in play, and he has a terrific ground game, does Youngkin in Virginia. That could be determinative, because if you get Virginia, you don't need Pennsylvania anymore. Pretty remarkable. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, Virginia hasn't been on my card lately, but if it comes into play, there is no chance for Kamala Harris to win. Listen, she wants this debate really bad because she knows she's in trouble. The bad news for her, by the way, is she miscalculates. If Donald Trump accepts a CNN debate, they've tended to be fair with him, and he'll probably do much better, particularly if they follow the guidelines. But nonetheless, Donald Trump doesn't need the debate to win. Kamala Harris needs it. Donald Trump's in the driver's seat if he just keeps pushing this economic message that he's got to talk about, and if he points out the radical nature of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I think that's a winning combination. He's doing pretty well at it right now. He needs to do it more aggressively, and I think we've got a good shot that he's going to win in November.
Jim, I think you're on the money, and I agree with you. Thank you for being here as always, my friend.
Thanks, Steve. Glad to be with you.
Let me tell you about my good friends at Patriot.